Why Princess Diana's revenge plan was a risky move you never knew about. Princess Diana wasn't just a royal rebel. She was on a mission, and it was personal. When her marriage fell apart, she didn't retreat quietly into the background. Instead, she took on the entire royal family, challenging the traditions, the secrets, and even the future of the monarchy itself. But this was more than just a publicity stunt. Princess Diana knew exactly what she was doing. She weaponized the media, risking everything to expose the truth about her marriage, her mental health struggles, and her rocky relationship with the royals. This wasn't a safe move. The pressure turned her into a target, not just for the paparazzi, but for those inside the palace who were determined to protect the monarchy at any cost. So how far did she go? And what consequences did she face? Let's uncover why Princess Diana's revenge was way more dangerous than anyone imagined. Number 1. The Panorama interview exposed her vulnerabilities. In 1995, Princess Diana gave one of the most explosive interviews in British history, the infamous Panorama interview with Martin Bashir. She didn't hold back. Princess Diana revealed deep struggles, including her battles with mental health and the betrayal she faced from King Charles' affair with Camilla. But this wasn't just a candid confession. It was an act of defiance that exposed her raw vulnerabilities to the world. Princess Diana's choice to be so open may have brought her public sympathy, but it also left her exposed. She was now more isolated within the palace walls, having crossed an unspoken line by airing the royal family's dirty laundry on national television. For Princess Diana, the interview was a way to reclaim her voice, but it came at the steep cost of further alienating her from the very institution she'd once been a part of. Number 2. Alienation from the royal family. Princess Diana's interview and media rounds didn't just shock the public. They were seen as a betrayal by the royal family. By challenging royal norms so publicly, she was pushing herself further into isolation within the institution. Her position became increasingly lonely, with few allies left in the palace who felt they could trust her. Her marriage was already over, and now so was any semblance of support from her former in-laws. Princess Diana's truth-telling had a price. She was cut off from the protective network that the royals could offer, leaving her vulnerable to external pressures and threats. Without the family's protection, Princess Diana was left navigating an unforgiving media landscape alone. For someone who had once been embraced by the firm, this alienation was a powerful reminder of just how dangerous it was to go against the monarchy. Number 3. Intensified media scrutiny. The media was fascinated by Princess Diana, and her story was a tabloid dream come true. Once she started speaking out, the press frenzy only intensified. Suddenly, every aspect of her life was fair game, and the paparazzi were relentless in their pursuit of the next scandalous shot. Her revenge plan meant that she could control the narrative on her terms, but it also painted a target on her back, with paparazzi following her every move. This constant scrutiny didn't just strip away her privacy, it turned her life into a circus. Princess Diana's open relationship with the press may have allowed her to share her side of the story, but it also amplified the danger she faced. The lack of privacy grew so intense that it placed her in harm's way, as seen in the tragic events leading up to her death in Paris. Number 4. Strained relationships with palace insiders. Princess Diana's decision to openly criticize the royal family sent shockwaves through the palace, affecting her relationships with those she once trusted. Her willingness to break protocol and expose family secrets left many insiders feeling betrayed. Once a beloved figure within the royal circle, Princess Diana's actions positioned her as an outsider. Relationships that had once been supportive turned cold, and palace insiders began to distance themselves. This created a sense of vulnerability, as even her former allies were hesitant to stand by her. The loyalty she'd once shared with members of the royal household faded, replaced by suspicion and distrust. This made Princess Diana more vulnerable, both emotionally and strategically. Without trusted allies, she became susceptible to exploitation and had few reliable sources of support, amplifying the risks associated with her defiance. Number 5. Emotional toll and mental health struggles. Princess Diana's mental health struggles were not only deeply personal, but also in a way, public. Her candid discussions about her mental health helped people feel connected to her on a new level, but they also brought about uncomfortable scrutiny. Many saw her as fragile, which created more invasive questions about her stability. Princess Diana's decision to discuss her personal struggles put a spotlight on her vulnerability, which some critics used to determine her credibility. This scrutiny added an enormous emotional toll, making her struggle to balance her public image and private life. The public's fascination with Princess Diana's mental health created a complex mix of empathy and criticism that was exhausting to navigate. By exposing her struggles, Princess Diana fostered empathy, but also placed herself in a precarious position where every aspect of her life became a talking point. Number 6. Exposing King Charles' affair was a double-edged sword. When Princess Diana spoke about King Charles' affair with Camilla, it shook the public's faith in the monarchy. She wasn't just exposing an affair, she was challenging the integrity of the future king. But this bold move was a double-edged sword. While it allowed Princess Diana to reclaim power and gain public sympathy, it also portrayed her as a bitter ex-wife in some eyes. For some, her decision seemed like revenge rather than a justified response. This backlash complicated her public image, as people struggled to separate her victimhood from her vulnerability. Princess Diana's bravery in speaking out resonated with many, but it came at a cost. Her reputation took a hit, as some saw her as vindictive. This exposure was a pivotal moment in her revenge plan, one that helped her regain agency, even as it added layers of complexity to her public image. Number 7. She became a target of negative publicity. Following the interview, the royal family's media allies retaliated with negative stories. This backlash was part of a broader strategy to discredit her, portraying her as attention-seeking or overly dramatic. Media outlets that had once celebrated her now questioned her motives and credibility. It was a carefully orchestrated counter-narrative that painted Princess Diana in a less favorable light. This wave of negative publicity not only damaged her reputation, but also added stress and exhaustion. Suddenly, she had to defend her actions, while also dealing with increasingly intrusive headlines. The strain of this negative media attention weighed heavily on her, as it felt like she was fighting a battle on multiple fronts. The press had once been an ally, but now it became a weapon used against her, adding to the many dangers she faced. Number 8. Increased danger from paparazzi. Princess Diana's relationship with the media was complex. By being so public, she made herself a high-value target for the paparazzi, whose relentless pursuit ultimately proved life-threatening. Her every move was documented, and the constant intrusion became a safety concern. In the end, it was this very obsession with capturing her life that played a tragic role in her untimely death. The paparazzi's need for photos, fueled by public fascination, led to a fatal pursuit in Paris. Princess Diana's pursuit of her own narrative had unintended consequences, with paparazzi invading her privacy to dangerous extremes. This chase for photos was relentless, leaving her without the privacy or safety most people take for granted. In her quest to reclaim her voice, she faced relentless invasions of her space, which ultimately ended in tragedy. Number 9. Her growing celebrity status was a burden. Princess Diana wasn't just royalty. She became an international superstar. While her status as a people's princess made her beloved worldwide, it also meant that she was living in a constant spotlight. Unlike the controlled appearances managed by the palace, Princess Diana's fame took on a life of its own, creating immense pressure for her to keep up a particular image. The burden of fame became overwhelming. She could never truly step away. Even the most mundane aspects of her life became a spectacle. The public saw her as their princess, yet the royal family was increasingly cold toward her, leaving her trapped between two worlds. The immense pressure of living up to public expectations without the support of her former family meant that Princess Diana was constantly under strain, and this pressure took a toll on her mental and emotional well-being. Number 10. Publicizing her relationship with Dodi Fayed. Princess Diana's relationship with Dodi Fayed added another layer of tension, both publicly and privately. As a wealthy Egyptian Muslim, Dodi was a highly controversial figure in certain circles, which fueled public curiosity and scrutiny. Their relationship became a lightning rod for gossip and xenophobic backlash, which only added to Princess Diana's stress. By choosing to be open about her romance with Dodi, Princess Diana sent a powerful message about independence. But it also heightened the pressures around her. The press became even more aggressive, and every aspect of their relationship was dissected and sensationalized. This put Princess Diana in a vulnerable position. She was pushing boundaries that many felt a royal should not. Her relationship with Dodi challenged societal expectations and added to her personal struggles as she fought to balance love, privacy, and public intrigue. Number 11. Undermining royal protocols made her an outsider. Princess Diana's decision to reject certain royal protocols was a bold, deliberate choice. She was known for shaking hands with AIDS patients, embracing those in marginalized communities, and showing a more human side that royals traditionally kept private. While this endeared her to the public, it also cemented her status as an outsider in the eyes of the palace. To some, Princess Diana's disregard for protocol felt like rebellion, and her defiance of tradition created discomfort among those who believed in maintaining the royal mystique. Her actions drove a wedge between her and other royals, who were protective of the institution's conservative image. This made her isolated and vulnerable to criticism from within the establishment. Princess Diana's independence marked her as different, and this outsider label left her without the usual royal protections, making her feel like she was living on the fringes of both the monarchy and society. Number 12. Threats to her personal security. Princess Diana's high-profile humanitarian work often placed her in dangerous situations. Unlike other royals, she visited conflict zones, like those affected by landmines, bringing international attention to critical issues. While her commitment to humanitarian causes won her admiration, it also exposed her to physical risks. She faced real threats in these areas, where her presence wasn't always welcome. By stepping out of the palace and onto the front lines, Princess Diana was making herself vulnerable to harm. This choice wasn't just dangerous physically, it also went against royal expectations, as royals rarely engage so directly in volatile areas. For Princess Diana, however, this work was deeply personal, and she was willing to risk her safety for it. Her dedication to causes others avoided made her a global figure, but it also put her in potentially life-threatening situations that most royals would never face. Number 13. Conflicts with royal PR and security teams. Princess Diana's approach to the media was often at odds with royal PR and security teams. While the palace valued control, secrecy, and careful image management, Princess Diana was much more open and spontaneous. Her preference for setting her own terms meant that she often clashed with royal security, who struggled to keep up with her independent movements. This tension left her in dangerous situations, as her security detail couldn't always anticipate her next move. Princess Diana's choices, while empowering, came with real security risks. Her preference for spontaneous outings sometimes left her unprotected, making her more accessible to an overzealous press and strangers. The rift between her and palace security illustrated how her independence was a double-edged sword. While it allowed her freedom, it also meant that, in many ways, Princess Diana was navigating this intense public life alone, increasing her vulnerability. Number 14. Increased psychological pressure from her son's positions. For Princess Diana, balancing her public role with her responsibilities as a mother was perhaps one of the most intense pressures she faced. She wanted William and Harry to experience life outside of the royal bubble, but this conflicted with the palace's expectations for them as heirs. Her desire to give her sons a taste of normal life often put her at odds with royal expectations, adding to her psychological stress. Princess Diana was constantly torn between her duty to the monarchy and her instinct to protect her children from it. She struggled with fears about how the royal lifestyle would impact them, which weighed heavily on her. The emotional toll was immense, as Princess Diana tried to shield her sons while managing her own struggles in the spotlight. In her quest to protect her children, she exposed herself to even more criticism and strain. Number 15. Her isolation created health and safety risks. As her relationship with the royal family deteriorated, Princess Diana became more isolated. Without a strong support system within the palace, she was often left to rely on outsiders, some of whom had their own agendas. This isolation created risks for her, as it left her vulnerable to exploitation and manipulation. Without trusted advisors, she had few people to turn to for advice or protection. This loneliness also had a significant impact on her mental health. She faced intense public scrutiny with limited support. The lack of trusted confidants meant that Princess Diana had to navigate an incredibly complex, high-stakes life largely on her own. Her isolation put her at risk of making hasty decisions, and it made her feel more exposed to the dangers around her. This lack of support network added a layer of vulnerability that made her struggles all the more challenging. Number 16. The toll of being people's princess. The public's adoration for Princess Diana was intense, and she cherished her role as the people's princess, but it came at a cost. Living up to the public's expectations required immense emotional energy. Princess Diana felt the need to constantly give of herself, to be warm and approachable, even when she was exhausted. This dedication took a significant toll on her. While she embraced this role wholeheartedly, the emotional labor involved was draining, leaving her little time to recharge or reflect. As she maintained her connection with the public, Princess Diana found herself constantly on, performing the role of a caring princess to meet the needs of her supporters. The emotional strain of this constant engagement left her exhausted, and over time, it became a burden. Her identity as the people's princess made her beloved, but it also made her life incredibly demanding, forcing her to bear the weight of public expectations daily. Number 17. Pressure to perform in public. After her interview, the public saw Princess Diana as someone who would continue to share her personal struggles openly. This expectation created a cycle of pressure where Princess Diana felt obligated to keep sharing and performing vulnerability. She became a symbol of strength through hardship, but this persona was exhausting to maintain. Every appearance, every comment was analyzed, and her image was scrutinized with almost relentless fascination. The pressure to perform her vulnerability was as burdensome as any other role, as Princess Diana had to constantly reveal parts of herself to an audience that craved more insight into her life. This need to perform placed her in a difficult position, where authenticity was expected, but it came at the cost of her privacy. The public's desire for Princess Diana's story left her vulnerable and exhausted, trapped in a cycle where her life was public property. Number 18. Her plan led to paranoia and trust issues. As Princess Diana continued to reveal personal details, her inner circle shrank and trust became increasingly difficult. Over time, she became paranoid, fearing that friends, the media, and even palace insiders might betray her. This distrust extended to nearly everyone in her life, creating an environment where she felt constantly on guard. Princess Diana's decision to take control of her narrative meant that her life became a series of guarded interactions. She began to feel as though everyone had ulterior motives, which only isolated her further. This sense of paranoia wasn't unfounded. Princess Diana had been betrayed before, and she knew the risks of vulnerability in such a high-profile life. However, this constant distrust wore on her mental health, creating an environment of suspicion that made her feel more alone than ever. Her revenge plan came with an emotional toll that left her deeply vulnerable to those around her. Number 19. Potential harm to her son's privacy and security. Princess Diana's choice to go public with her personal struggles and criticisms of the royal family indirectly impacted her two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. Every detail she gave about her own life brought new scrutiny to her boys, as the media speculated on how her decisions would affect them. Princess Diana was acutely aware of the toll this could take on their privacy and security. Yet she was caught between shielding her children and asserting her own voice. Her sons were growing up in the shadow of this highly publicized royal drama, and their experiences were complicated by the intense media interest in their mother's life. While Princess Diana fought to protect them from the pressures of royal duties, the public exposure added strain, potentially impacting their mental health and security. The people's princess wanted her sons to lead as normal lives as possible. Yet her own journey made that goal difficult to achieve. Number 20. Risk of losing custody or access to her children. One of the most distressing fears Princess Diana faced was the potential loss of access to her sons. Her bold public moves against the monarchy led to whispers that the palace could take steps to restrict her involvement in William and Harry's lives if they felt her behavior was damaging the royal image. While the Queen herself would never directly threaten this, palace insiders could make Princess Diana's situation more difficult, especially if they felt her choices were destabilizing the royal image. Princess Diana's public persona as a controversial yet beloved figure created a tense relationship with those in power, and rumors circulated that her access to the boys might be restricted if her actions continued to clash with royal protocols. This risk weighed heavily on her, and it was perhaps one of the most personal costs of her revenge plan. Her desire to stay close to her children while also reclaiming her independence created an emotional battle that no mother should have to face. Number 21. Her intent to move abroad was met with resistance. As her relationship with Dodi Fayed deepened, Princess Diana reportedly considered leaving Britain for good. The idea of relocating abroad represented her ultimate act of independence, a move that would allow her to escape the relentless media spotlight and the pressures of royal life. But for the monarchy, this possibility was alarming. Princess Diana leaving the UK with Dodi and perhaps, in time, even William and Harry, would have been seen as a profound threat. Not only would it mean that the two young princes might be raised outside of the royal influence, but it would also publicly demonstrate Princess Diana's rejection of the royal family. Her rumored plan to leave Britain added fuel to the fire of her already tense relationship with the palace, with some insiders viewing it as an act of outright defiance. If she'd succeeded in moving abroad, Princess Diana would have truly been free, but it would have come at the cost of breaking all remaining ties with the royal institution and likely intensifying her status as a subject of intense public argument in both royal and public eyes. Princess Diana's bold actions didn't just challenge the royal family. They reshaped how the world saw the monarchy and her own legacy. Her journey was complex, filled with risks that reached far beyond what most people imagined. But what do you think? Was Princess Diana's revenge plan worth the danger she faced? Or did it come at too high a cost? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments down below. And if you found this video insightful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!